Reviewer James CREEDON joins me now here in the studio. And James,
good morning, Marcos.
Taking a look at the papers, we start with Iran.
Yeah, election day today in Iran, and the papers are covering that around the world. The Washington Post is in Iran. They've sent a reporter there, and they paint a very telling scene at the start of their article. The article I read, a long column of provincial working-class Iranians dressed in black, wearing flip-flops. They're going through an underground pass on the way to a rally for Ahmadinejad. And standing above, the reporter describes a group of young cosmopolitan teenagers shouting down at them, "Go back to the zoo." And the guys walking down below shout back up, "Sissies." You know, so this is revealing a sort of social divide.
Definitely, we see the divisions between different parts of society.
Exactly, the haves and the have-nots, as they describe it in the Washington Post. And they go on to say that Ahmadinejad is proud of his status as an outsider, even though he's obviously in power.
Now,
and
of course, all eyes are on this story throughout the Middle East as well. I believe you've been taking a look at a Middle Eastern newspaper, is that correct?
Yes, the Asharq al-Awsat is based in London. It's Pan-Arabic paper. So they're saying that the social divisions that we see in the Washington Post, the divisions are also in the elite, and whoever is elected will have to deal with these very big divisions that have emerged in the elite during this election campaign, which has been very vicious, in fact, between the four main candidates who have been tearing shreds off each other, it is fair to say. And also, obviously, the other big focus is foreign policy. How are they going to deal with Obama's extended hand during his Cairo speech? He clearly showed that he is prepared to dialogue with Iran, so they will have to deal with whoever is elected will have to deal with that foreign policy conundrum, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Now,
next story.
Ronaldo. We've seen that this is the most expensive transfer in the history of football. 94 million euros. Now, the Manchester Evening News interviews several Manchester United fans outside Old Trafford.
Because at the moment, Cristiano Ronaldo, of course, he plays for Manchester United.
He plays for Manchester United. He's their star player, and I'm pretty gutted, said Greg Sharples, but he admitted that this was Ronaldo's dream to move to Real Madrid. Of course, he's Portuguese, so obviously being in Madrid culturally would be easier for the guy, I suppose. But this fan says that, you know, they're the homegrown players like Giggs and Scholes are the ones that the fans like to see. So, you know, he thinks that Ronaldo will regret it. Exactly. In El Mundo, then in Madrid, they're wondering, will this deal be profitable? Because 94 million is a lot of money. And the president of the club says that it's a model that has worked in the past. They've spent a lot of money on players like Zidane in 2001. They spent 75 million on him. The coffers at the time were about 100 million euros. Now revenues have climbed to 300 million. So with exclusivity clauses, sponsorship deals, etc., these sort of high-profile players can bring in a lot of money.
Well, if we go back to Manchester United, I think they bought Ronaldo for just a few million, so they definitely made a profit off him.
Right, so they've done well out of it, and Real Madrid are hoping that they'll make revenues out of it as well. FIGARO, then, I think we saw that earlier, the hierarchy of who the most expensive players in the world now are, and all the top three spots, Real Madrid is the team that has been paying out for that. Now we'll move on to the swine flu. If you go to the Hong Kong-based South China Morning Post, they're covering the fact that there's a cluster of swine flu that has emerged there. 12 secondary school students. They're going to shut down all of the primary schools, daycare centres in Hong Kong for 2 weeks. Now, interestingly, it was secondary school students that were affected, yet they're shutting down primary schools because they think it's younger children that transmit this disease most easily. That is what the studies show. And there's also an article on that front page saying that this, of course, is the first pandemic that the WHO has declared since 1968. 30,000 cases now discovered. So yes,
yeah, they did that yesterday. So it's definitely sort of a dramatic move there from the World Health Organization, right. and for China as well. It's keeping it a close eye on this.
Right, and they're thinking that this pandemic should last for some 2 years. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one.
Now, and of course, as well, China is particularly concerned because they all remember the SARS crisis a few years back, and they were hard hit then, so they don't want to see the same thing happening once again.
And I think the governor was saying in the South China Morning Post, one of the people dealing with this is they do have a lot of experience in dealing with sort of issues like this, not pandemics but epidemics, I suppose. So they are well placed in terms of strategies to limit the disease. So hopefully they'll be effective in doing that. Now we'll move to the Daily Mail. Fined for dropping a tenner is the headline. So this is quite a bizarre story. A man was fined for dropping a £10 note in Scotland. He was coming out of a charity shop. He's an arthritis sufferer by the name of Stuart Smith, and he thought he'd put the £10 note on the receipt in his back pocket. It fell out. The police called him back because they apparently have a zero tolerance policy in terms of litter. So he thanked them for handing back the £10 note, and they promptly issued him with a £50 fine. Now the thing is, he's living on disability benefits, and this £50 fine would cut his benefits by half for the week ahead. So clearly I mean, it was a pretty unnecessary,
unnecessarily
strict
indeed.
gesture by the police in Scotland. So
it's very strict indeed. I'm glad to see that the Mail is on the barricades as per usual for that.
Exactly. So between 94 million for Ronaldo and this poor guy with his £10 note, it's quite a contrast in the figures in the press review this morning.
Quite a contrast indeed. Thanks very much for that press review, James CREEDON. You're with France 24 live from Paris. This